So you guys probably by now know who Breonna Taylor is. She was a black woman who was killed by police officers in Kentucky. Now, this is actually a case that's probably even worse than the George Floyd situation. So basically what happened was Breonna Taylor had an ex-boyfriend who the police thought was a drug dealer, and I guess he was already in custody. She's now trying to move on from that. She's going to nursing school, try to become a nurse. She's trying to buy her own home, get her own car, sort of become independent, and all of this kind of stuff. She has a new boyfriend named Kenneth Walker, who she is then with. Officers get a no-knock warrant because they believe that Breonna, I guess, has drugs, because Kenneth Walker has no connection to drugs or any criminal history. Neither does Breonna Taylor. So they get a no-knock warrant, which is totally illegal and unconstitutional, by the way. I mean, it's insane. The idea that you can have a warrant for a no-knock is insane. But they get a no-knock warrant. They don't knock on the door or announce themselves as police. Kenneth Walker thinks that it is her ex-boyfriend who's coming in. So he fires a warning shot, hits an officer in the leg. The officers then fire back with a bunch of shots that ends up killing Breonna Taylor, but not Kenneth Walker. Walker was arrested, but then the charges, I guess, were dropped, and I think he's released now. So that's basically the situation. Now, the grand jury has indicted only one of 3 officers, but there's been 0 officers actually charged directly with the murder of Breonna Taylor. It's instead a sort of minor charge, which are 3 counts of wanton endangerment, overshooting into neighboring apartments. His bond is only at $15K, which is nothing. So it says the grand jury did not announce charges against Jonathan Mattingly and Myles Cosgrove, the other 2 officers involved. None of the 3 faces state charges directly over Taylor's death. So none of them actually got charged from this. So what's interesting is the Attorney General cited one person who said that they heard the police announce themselves as police, when there were 12 witnesses, I believe, and only one of them said that they heard them announce themselves as police. But that was the one that the Attorney General decided to go with. So this investigation was essentially a cover-up. It was a clown show, just like all of these investigations end up being. And there's fundamental issues with policing, you know. If you take like a criminal, administration of justice class, you'll learn about how there's the us versus them mentality, where once you become a police officer, you kind of become ingrained, and it sort of becomes police versus everyone else. Defend your own, and that kind of is what becomes the issue with the rotten apples thing. Is it's hard for there to just be rotten apples when a good police officer is ostracized in the current system. Now, when it comes to reforms, a lot of these are hard to get these convictions against these officers, because for a murder charge to be given, 12 jurors have to agree that that person should be charged with murder. And the truth is, there's typically at least 1 out of 12 jurors in these cases that ends up siding with the police no matter what the circumstances are, because they're simply pro-police. So that's one of the issues. Another issue is there's so many different levels when it comes to policing, right? Policing is really mostly determined by local and state. A lot of it really has to do with local. There's so much sort of discrepancy between police departments and the way that they act. And so to get change, you have to have change over, thousands of police departments, essentially. And that's a really difficult thing to do. So I guess Kentucky has banned no-knock warrants, there should be a federal ban on no-knock warrants, by the way. It's entirely illegal and is really stupid. Now, there are some right-wingers like Tucker Carlson who are trying to defend the police. He lied on his show yesterday about Kenneth Walker being a drug dealer. Totally false, totally made up, total lie. He did end up correcting himself after that, but this is a more clean-cut case, I would say, even than the George Floyd situation. I mean, this is totally ridiculous and insane. And, one of the main conservative tenets is if someone comes invading your house, you have the right to shoot them on sight. So Kenneth Walker assumed that it was an intruder, so he shot a warning shot that, by the way, he shot a warning shot that hit the officer in the leg, and then they returned a shit ton of fire that ended up killing Breonna Taylor. So it wasn't even like dude was just like pop, he was like letting out. It wasn't even what it was. It wasn't even letting out. So, there's really no excuse or defense here whatsoever. And this is definitely something to be very outraged about. And this is going to continue. You know, I see protests going on here. It's really just a really, really sad story. And hopefully there will be some change made. But, you know, when it comes to the solutions to these things, it's just so decentralized. It's difficult to fix this literally everywhere. But hopefully some change will be delivered.